Okay.
So now we'll talk about notes payable that are not issued for cash. They're issued for non-cash items. So this would be, in this example, the company has a bill from the architect for architectural services for $550,000. And it could be for property, it could be a note payable issued for land, for various goods, it could be for inventory, or other types of services, a lot of times legal fees for a startup. So the easy thing is when the face value of the note is equal to whatever you got, and you know it, you can verify that. So if you know the fair value of the architectural services, and this happened to be that number, you could use that and be done with it. Just that would be fairly easy. If the stated interest rate were reasonable, you could base the fair value of the services provided on that. But of course, they're not going to make things easy for us. And so this is a situation where they say the amount of the note is substantially different from the current cash sales price for the same or similar items. So the note's not really, the same value as these architectural services, and the interest rate is not a reasonable interest rate for our company. So if we did know the architectural services, we could use that to value the note. But when that's not known and the interest rate, we have to use what's called an imputed interest rate to value the entire transaction. And so we're coming up with the implicit interest rate, which in this case is 8%. We somehow managed to impute that would be the interest rate appropriate for this transaction. Okay, so what do we do with all this mess? Yeah, let's just review a bit. It's a note payable for $550,000 of architectural services, but we're really not sure that the services were really worth that. It's a 5-year note payable. Stated interest rate is 2%, which is not reasonable. We're going to pay the interest annually based on the stated rate. The note's not readily marketable, so we can't figure out what similar notes would cost. And the fair value of the services cannot be determined. Oh boy. But we have the imputed interest rate. So the first thing we have to do is, using this and that, we come up with the present value of the note using the appropriate imputed interest rate. So we've got the principal of $550. We've got the interest payments are going to be $11,000. That's $550 times 2% payable annually. So that comes out to $11,000 we're going to pay at the end of each year. We go to the present value tables. It's a 5-year note, so n equals 5. 8% is our implicit interest rate. And so we get our factors, multiply them out. This is the present value factor of a single sum for the principal, present value of an ordinary annuity for the interest payments, because there'll be 5 equal installments. Okay, get the amounts, add them up, and this is the present value of the note. Okay, so what do we do with that? We go set up our table. All right, so we get the dates involved. Here's the date the note is taken out. Here's the end of year interest payments each year. We get 5 interest payments. We figured that amount out, so that's easy to plug in. We start off up here with the carrying value of the note starts at that $418,239 that we computed down here. Okay, and that means that our unamortized discount is $131,761. So we took the $550 minus the present value, and the difference is this $131,761. And that's the unamortized discount on this note. Then we say, okay, so here's our interest expense, and we'll have to figure out, okay, so interest expense, we're going to go 8% times the carrying value of $418,239 gives us this amount of interest expense. So when we go to figure out how much discount we've amortized, we're going to take the interest expense less the amount of the payment and this is the amount of discount that we have amortized with that payment, okay, with that interest payment. And so then our discount starts out at the 131, it's gonna end up at 0 by the end of the note. Our carrying value starts out at the present value, and it's gonna end up at the face value. So we're adding this we're subtracting the 22,459 here, and then we're adding it here, all right? So we get a new carrying value. You're doing 8% times the new carrying value. This is the amount of interest expense, 35,256 minus the cash paid, the interest, gives you this amount of discount that's been amortized. We go 109 minus this, gives us that. The 440 plus this gives us that, and so forth. Okay, so when you come down to doing the journal entries, you notice that we're not receiving cash, we have architectural expense here. And this is the fair value, the present value using the implicit interest rate. So that's the amount that we can attribute to, or we can record architectural expense on our books at. We can't use the 550 because that wasn't the real value. Okay, this is the real value. Discount on notes payable, that translates into, that's the amount of interest that we're going to be, that's going to convert to interest expense over the life of the note. And our note payable that we have to pay back at the end of the period is 550. So that's our first journal entry, and you notice we're starting with this and that, and the face value of the note. Okay, so now at the end of the first year, we got interest expense, and here's our interest expense right here, the 33,459. The discount on notes payable that we're amortizing is this amount here, right? And we're paying out the cash of 11,000. So we get 11,000 plus the discount that we're amortizing, and just basically adding on to the interest gives us our total interest expense related to that payment. And I'd suggest you go through and sort of do the journal entries for the interest for the next one. The only way to really learn this is to take them sort of a little bit at a time and just really mechanically work them through. I don't believe you can learn this stuff just by looking at it or listening to it, okay? So that's the sad but true news on it.